Hey everyone, Morgan Stanley bought EHang shares. Hang in, I will get into the details and how they react to the market, the Wolfpack accusation, and of course we will talk about recent developments. But first of all, welcome to High School Dropout's Advice. If you need subtitles, click on the subtitle button right here. If you want to join my Discord channel, you can do this through Patreon, which I link down below. The stock lost about 6% today and is holding in the low 20s. We are trading for a 1.2 billion market cap. If you want to buy stocks and need a brokerage account, or you want a second brokerage account, I can recommend you Webull. You can also use Webull to trade cryptocurrencies like Dogecoin, Bitcoin and Ethereum. You would also get 4 free stocks up to $1,850 per stock when you deposit at least $100. You would get at least $32 worth of shares. So this is a return of 32% just by depositing 100%. I will also get 1 to 2 stocks which will help me to pay for my video editors. You can find the link down below in the description. Now let's have a look at the new development. We see that we have 5 more companies reporting that they bought EHang shares. Morgan Stanley did bought about 4.35 million in EHang. This was reported in the 13F filing on May the 18th. Let me also clarify this. These are the shares bought in Q1 2021. So this is not bought on May the 18th. It was bought in the first quarter. The investment companies have to file at the end of each quarter which stock they are holding. So we see that there are more and more institutional investors are buying into EHang, which is a good sign. On the other hand, we also have to say that Morgan Stanley had invested in over 7,000 companies. Of course, it's good to have Morgan Stanley invested, but this does not mean that the price will go to the moon now. Let me explain this. 4.35 million are peanuts for Morgan Stanley. If EHang has a chance of 10% to 20x the Morgan Stanley investment, they will always do it, because this means 9 times out of 10 they will lose the entire investment, but 1 out of 10 they make 20x their money, which makes up all their losses and makes them a profit of 10 times. So Morgan Stanley's portfolio of over 7,000 stock is a game of large numbers. Maybe you are familiar with these terms. This is the same casino uses, where they have a minimal edge of a couple of percent against the player and win over the long run and on a large sample size. So overall, someone at Morgan Stanley did a brief analysis and thought EHang is worth the risk. So did many other companies, as you can see on the list. Let me show you what Morgan Stanley did. Morgan Stanley actually has increased its ownership in EHang. They held around 17,392 shares and added roughly another 100,000 on top. So they got a total of 117,379 shares now from the disclosed value. And the previous disclosed value, we can roughly estimate that the Morgan Stanley got an average share price of $36 to $39 per share. So we know that the stock for Morgan Stanley should be at least worth that amount. Otherwise, there would be no sense to invest in it. HRT Financial LP also did buy 50,209 EHang stocks for roughly 1.859 million, which equals a buy price of $37. We small retail investors need to understand that institutional investors will never put a significant big investment in a company. Let me explain this. Morgan Stanley cannot invest 500 million into EHang because this would be about 40% of the current market cap, which means Morgan Stanley is pushing the price up. So the average buying price will be too high and it takes EHang too long to fill the shoes. So you will never see big investors with too much money invest in penny stocks. As retail investors, it's way easier to invest and make the big gains before the company becomes big and interesting enough for institutional investors to invest in. Seeing that EHang is starting to attract institutional investors is a good sign. Even the amounts are low. They will get gradually bigger as the company gets bigger. Now I want to show you something very interesting. Virtu Financial decreased the position after the Wolfpack acquisition by 19%. We are not quite sure of the Virtu investment game plan, but whether Virtu is a short-term or long-term investor. Reducing just 19% after the Wolfpack acquisition still means that Virtu is overall bullish on EHang. This is the statistic at the moment. Besides the Wolfpack acquisition, we have institutional investors buying $87 million worth of EHang shares and only 382,000 were sold. So we can see that institutions are squeezing the little retail investors out of their positions and building their position in the stock. The Wolfpack acquisition did not have a big impact on big seasoned institutional investors. We have to understand that big institutional investors can wait for stocks to drop and buy them from small retail investors. I'm pretty sure that many retail investors freaked out and were underbidding each other to get their shares sold. The big institutional investors were just waiting for it to drop further or have their trader friends shorten it to push it even lower when they start to buy the stock. This is clearly what happened here. Let me use Amazon to explain my point further. You know that Amazon got a quite good run in 2020, so it does not really make sense to sell unless they want to secure some gains. You see that the percentage of seller is in relation to the buyer from 8% to 50%. At EHang the relationship is 0.004, which is less than 0.5%. You see, 382,000 divided by 87 million. So you can see that institutional investors are more bullish on EHang than on Amazon. They are extremely bullish on EHang. Let me explain to you what institutional investors think. It will hurt us more not being in EHang and it goes up than being in EHang and losing it entirely. This is what they think. Remember the concept of large numbers I explained to you earlier. I try to show you how big investors think. If we understand how they feel, how they think, we can copy their investment style or avoid losing against them. You might know the history of the word and meme HODL. This is one concept how you do not lose to more seasoned investors. This is the best defensive play. Not the most profitable, but one of the safest plays you can do as an investor. Now let us talk about recent developments. We have some pictures, XY EHang from Guangxi, where the EH216 is landing in a soccer stadium. The city is kinda small there, so there are not so many visitors. We also have a Chinese actor who celebrated his birthday on May the 17th with the light show of EHang. In Spain, the light show will be officially available later this year. J. Cruz from Twitter also mentioned that the 5G network in Guangdong, where EHang is located, is the best 5G network in China. We also know that EHang uses 5G and 4G to communicate with the passenger drones, but there will also be other connection possibilities. From the EASA research, you can find out this. The UAM industry will create about 90,000 jobs in 2030 with a market size of 4.2 billion euros, 1,500 times less likely to be involved in a fatal accident compared to road transport. This is actually a lot safer than I thought. Overall, the people have an 83% positive attitude towards UAM, and 71% would use it one form or another for transportation. 50% would use the air taxi, and 21% would use the drone delivery service. We see that there is a massive interest for the drones to be used in emergency cases like delivery for medical supplies, transport of injured person to hospitals, or transportation of emergency medical personnel, disaster management, and long distance cargo delivery is number 5. Passenger transport is actually on the lower end of interest. The highest passenger transport people are interested in is the shuttle service to the airport. So overall, we can agree that there is a future for UAM. The UAM industry will try to replace the helicopter industry. The helicopter industry found a sweet spot between cars and planes. But I think the big revolution is the manned and unmanned drones. The big revolution could not come with the helicopters alone. This development is comparable with PayPal. PayPal wanted to digitalize fiat money, and to some extent it was successful. But Elon Musk's vision of also revolutionize value into a digital form did not succeed. But we have another try with blockchain technology. So we can see from history that the first attempt usually made doesn't bring the big revolution as the inventor hoped for. Anyways, for legal reasons, let me tell you that I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a guy on YouTube. Please remember to do your own due diligence and hire a financial advisor if necessary. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel when you don't want to miss out on any stock news and investment opportunity. Thank you so much, and see you hopefully in the next video. Thank you. Bye.